January 15th is an exciting day for the highly anticipated The Last of Us show on HBO Max. Now, this video game adaptation to film, actually to a show, everyone's talking about it and raving about it. And tonight I got to sit down and watch it for myself. So I'm going to give you my opinions, some of the parallels that I noticed between the show and the video game. And I want to discuss the actors and characters because I think that's pretty important to review as well. If you don't know what The Last of Us is, it's actually a video game by Naughty Dog. And Naughty Dog is responsible for such games as Red Dawn Redemption and the Uncharted series, which is one of my favorites. The show on HBO Max features Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey. These two actors are bringing it to the screen and making the video game come to life. So I'm excited to share that with you right now. Now, as for Joel, the main character, I'm going to take a look at the video game and then I'm going to compare it to the show. So the video game The Last of Us stars Joel. And Joel is basically a single parent raising a preteen daughter, and things appear to be going right for them. He's a hard worker, and his daughter, she's fun and has quips, and she's just trying to maneuver through life. I loved that in the video game, you got to see how close Joel was with his daughter. It starts where it's Joel's birthday. His daughter got him a gift, and Joel actually has to go back out to do some work. So Sarah, his daughter's left at home by herself, and she's watching a movie and falls asleep. So she wakes up and the house is dark and empty. Her father's not there, and she notices on the news that the reporter is talking about people who appear to be crazed and running wild in the city. Just as she's looking at the news, there's an explosion on TV and it takes out the news broadcast, and the emergency broadcast is directly put on after. So she looks out the window and sees the explosion, and you can tell that it's not too far from her home. So she's terrified. So Sarah goes downstairs and she's looking around. She's calling for her dad because all of this stuff is happening and he's not home. So as Sarah's looking around, her dad rushes inside. He's like, lock the doors, lock the doors. So she hurries up, he locks the door, and the neighbor, the Coopers that live next door, the man or the husband is banging on the door trying to get in. He's all bloody, he's covered in blood, and Sarah's frightened. And she's like, Dad, what's going on? So the father, Joel, tells her, hurry up, Uncle Tommy's coming, we gotta get out of here. So Tommy came, and he rushed them, and they both got in the truck and they took off. So the daughter's asking what's going on. There's chaos. There's neighbors running in the street. Some of them are bloody, attacking each other. Pandemonium. Helicopters flying overhead. Just chaos. And the daughter is terrified. She's shaking in the back seat and she's asking what's going on. And Joel lets her know that, we got to be safe. We got to get out of the city. So the daughter pretty much has an idea because she sees people acting crazy. And there's like a family that's standing in the middle of the road begging for assistance. They needed a ride. Tommy flies by those people. I wouldn't let them in either if I was Tommy because there's too much going on and you don't know what's happening. So basically, as things continue, they're driving through the city. They're trying to make it onto a highway. The highway's blocked off. There's tons of traffic and it looks pretty much hopeless. So Tommy is Joel's good friend and it's his brother. So they're trying to flee out of the city and there's no luck. Everywhere they turn, the traffic is blocked off. So Tommy decides to go to the city of all places because he's like, since people are running away from it, let's see if we can make our way through. So he goes into town and it's even worse. It's total chaos. There's like a fire truck and people scrambling and running. Some are eating other people. Like it's a zombie apocalypse and it's clear that something is definitely wrong with these people. So Tommy's trying to back up and get out of the way. Sadly, the car is struck by an oncoming vehicle and they flip over. The daughter, Sarah, gets hurt pretty bad. So Joel decides to, hold his daughter and carry her. So Tommy says, keep heading to the river and I'll meet you over there. So before they separate, Tommy's running with Joel and they're running. And then, Tommy points to Joel to hurry up and get away. So Joel gets away with the daughter. They're stopped by a military personnel and he's like, hold it, don't go any farther. He's like, my daughter's hurt, we're not bitten, we promise we're okay, we're not sick. And the military person contacts, or the soldier, he contacts someone or superior, and he's given orders to take out anyone who's on site. So he's kind of reluctant, but he's following his orders. He turns the gun to Joel and his daughter, and he shoots, and Joel and his daughter tumble down like a small hill, and Tommy actually shoots the guard so that he doesn't turn and kill Joel in the process. Joel was actually hit. And when they looked around, sadly, Sarah was non-responsive. She wasn't moving. And then he saw that she was hurt. So she, she's dazed. She's grabbing her stomach, and she's in a lot of pain because she's been shot. And Joel is like, hang on, let me pick you up, let me help you. And she couldn't move. She's in a lot of pain. And sadly, she took her last few breaths and passed away. So the story doesn't end there. Sadly, Joel lost his daughter, and Tommy, is around. And then it's 20 years later. And Joel is a gray-haired old man. And the way the environment is after 20 years, all the chaos, the government is controlling the areas in which people live. Their sectors. So each sector is a quarantine zone where other people from different zones can't come into or cross. If they're seen without their IDs, if they're in the wrong place at the wrong time and don't follow the curfew, then they will possibly get arrested or killed. So you have Joel, and he's with Tess, and Tess is like a badass, like hardcore type girl, and Tess is they're doing a lot of backdoor deals in order to get money and supplies. So it's kind of it's a post-apocalyptic world, and they're just trying to survive. So Tess, there's this guy's shady character named Robert, and he didn't steal, but he didn't give Tess money for the guns. He ended up selling the guns to someone else to pay off a debt. And Tess, they weren't able to get their supplies, so they went after Robert's. And Robert is like this loser of a guy, and he kind of betrayed them. And Tess wants her stuff. So in the game, she shoots and kills Robert because there's no use in crying over spilled milk. He already got money for the guns, and they were not able to get their supplies. Tess is very cold in the video game, and it's nice to see that echoed in the show. And I'll be talking about the show in just a minute. So Tess knows of a firefly. Her name is Marlene, and Marlene is telling Tess, she was like, I know that you want your supplies and stuff. I think I can help you out. So Marlene lets Tess know that she needs help smuggling something across the border. And Tess agrees to do it. However, they learn later that the something is actually a person, and that introduces the secondary character, Ellie. So their job is to smuggle Ellie out of Texas or out of the city and down to the Capitol building. How the HBO Max show The Last of Us starts, there is a 1968 retro, it looks like it's taken from a talk show, and there are a bunch of scientists and researchers there on stage, and they're talking about the disease. Now in the game, we don't hear so much about the disease, just the aftermath of everything. But in the show, I like that they're filling you in as to what it is. So they're letting you know that the disease is a virus, how it's spread, and it acts like a fungus when it infects the host. And of course, we saw that in the game with the clickers and the other like mutated zombies that are in the game, the runners. They're not called zombies, they're called runners, the faster infected. So within the show, after this interview, the researchers are talking about how it develops, and they anticipate that it's going to be a big pandemic that's going to cause this infection to spread across and infect like pretty much the entire population. So they anticipated this big thing was supposed to happen. And some people in the audience, they're just sitting and listening, but the researchers are letting them know that it's a possibility that this can happen. So now the show is flash forward into 2003, and it's Joel's birthday. And it's really nice because as a fan of the Last of Us franchise, it's really nice to see the parallels between the show and the video game. I've seen a lot of video game adaptations to movies or to shows, and they've taken so much out that the the show itself lost its essence. And it's nice that they were able to give fans exactly, you know, the information and the characters ripped from the video game. And it was so dope the way how they did it. So as this parallel is Joel's birthday and his daughter Sarah's there. And I like that with the actor Pedro Pascal. His daughter Sarah, she favors him. She looks more ethnic, and I thought that that was a nice touch to be able to blend the characters, so it looked like it really was her father, which I liked. So it's Joel's birthday, and Sarah, she got him a gift. But one thing that I liked about the show, it explored their relationship a little further. It explored the banter between them, just like the video game. However, you got to see more of Joel being domesticated, being at home with his daughter. And even though he's a hard worker, he's always looking out for her. And then he has the banter with his brother Tommy. And Sarah's going to school. She's just a typical like preteen, and she's just enjoying her life. That is the normalcy of her life. It's Joel's birthday, and Sarah wants to celebrate with him. So she's like, get a cake. She actually took some money out of his drawer and got him a gift for his birthday, because of course he's a kid. She doesn't have money like that. So she stays up for him. He finally comes home and they watch a movie. Of course, Joel forgot the cake and they fell asleep. Well, she fell asleep on the couch and Joel was up. Joel disappears out of the frame for a while. He got a phone call from his brother stating that his brother was arrested and in jail and he needed to be bailed out. And in the video game was different because Joel got called away, but we didn't really see what he got called away for. So his brother wasn't in jail in the game. So Joel leaves, his daughter's sleeping. He carries her up to her room like a sweet dad and puts her down and kisses her, and he's off on his way. It's 2 a.m. when Sarah wakes up, and it is chaos. She hears the helicopters flying above, people are screaming, and she's wondering what's happening. So she goes downstairs, she's calling for her father. She sees the news broadcast. It's exactly the same as the video game, which I appreciated. And she is, you know, scared. She's terrified. So it's 2 a.m. or a little after 2, and Sarah hears a scratch at the door. It's the dog, the next door neighbor's dog, Mercy. He's at the door. He's scratching and freaking out, and she opens the door to see what was wrong with the dog. The dog is obviously in some type of distress, and Sarah's like, what's happening? So she goes next door to check on her neighbor, and you know, Sarah enters the house reluctantly, but the neighbors are senior citizens and she wants to make sure that these folks are okay. So she goes inside, and to her shock, she discovered the man that was there, her neighbor. He was on the floor bleeding, like there was blood everywhere. It was a pool of blood. When she looked down, she was in complete shock. She saw his wife, who's supposed to be the disabled old woman, gnawing at her husband's leg. So Sarah backs up. She's terrified, and the old woman jumps at her and chases Sarah through the house. Sarah's quick enough to run through the front door, and she bumps right into her father and Tommy as they pull up in the truck. And Joel is like, get in the car, Sarah. So this is much different from the video game because we didn't see Sarah go next door and, you know, talk to her neighbors. I like this scene specifically because she's in a neighborhood. It's giving you more of a feel of their normal life before everything fell apart. So, you know, they take out the neighbor because the neighbor is wild and she's crazy and acting crazy and trying to, of course, bite them. So we can see the parasite in the old woman's mouth. And I like that they showed the parasite because it makes it more believable that these things can actually be like fungus related or virus related, and how they created the whole pandemic thing, you know, to state that this is how the disease spread. So I thought that was pretty interesting, you know, seeing the actual parasite coming out of her mouth. So Joel in turn takes the old lady out. He hits her with a wrench and she drops like a log. So they get in the car and they're driving away, and it's very reminiscent of the video game. They're trying different locations, and of course they ended up going into the city. Now, what's the different parallel between the show and the video game is that instead of it being a car accident, it was actually a plane that crashed in the distance, and the explosion, the blowback from the explosion knocked over their vehicle. So Sarah's hurt and we're having the same scenes again. So we know what happens to Sarah. Sadly, they mimic that part exactly like the video game, and I appreciate HBO for doing this. It gives fans the exact same thing we wanted. We wanted to see, it from the video game. That's what we fell in love with. That's what fans wanted to see. So I'm glad HBO did that because it echoed it perfectly. And I like that how they had Joel's daughter, Sarah, even though she wasn't in the show for very long, it gave her more depth to her character, even though she wasn't there very long. She was in the backseat and she was feeling hopeless. I mean, she's in a situation where she's fleeing her family home. They're on the run. They're trying to get away from this thing. Yeah, she felt really hopeless because she's seeing people affected by the disease and she thinks that it's going to happen to everybody and everyone is going to die. I really like when Joel was holding Sarah and carrying her, when her leg was messed up. She couldn't walk, and here's her dad trying to help her and make sure she's brought to safety. And he says to her, eyes on me, don't look around at anything else, because there was so much going on. People were snacking on other people. People were lunging at them. It was just chaos. And for her dad to hold her and carry her in such a way, he's protecting her. Essentially, he's protecting her and trying to keep her safe. And all this stuff is going on. And sadly, even though Sarah unfortunately died, Joel tried his best to protect her. And at that point, he felt hopeless because, he lost his child. So in this show, you have Joel, and Joel is aged. Clearly 20 years have passed. Pedro, of course, looks gorgeous regardless. But he is this, guarded type of guy. He's hustling hard. He's selling pillies and, boozing it up and drinking. And he is doing everything he could basically do to survive in this environment. So they have to bribe guards, he has to get his point across. He has to be able to make money and earn supplies so that he can, eventually leave this situation, or at least leave the sector that they're trapped in. So you have him doing odd jobs, and his goal is to score a vehicle and get a battery so him and Tess can get out of the situation. And all the while, with all of this going on, since it's been 20 years, Joel is trying to find his brother Tommy. He hasn't given up. And of course, if that was your family member out there, you'd want them to be with you. So he's been trying, listening to the radio and sitting by to see if he hears any word from his brother. So at this point, they're introducing Ellie for the first time. And I know a lot of people had negative things to say about this actor, but Bella does such an amazing job. She's a great actress. I loved her in Game of Thrones I think she played a princess or a queen. Sadly, she got killed by that giant, but she's a good actress. And I know that we get so fixated, especially as fans, we get so fixated. We want the characters to look exactly like those, characters that we've seen in the video game. However, we have to try to look a little deeper, I think, and see if the person is talented enough. I've seen movies where the people looked exactly like they're supposed to, but the acting was trash or the writing was trash. But HBO is doing it, okay? HBO shows, they really put their all into it and they do their research, which I enjoy. So I like the show Titans. The actors don't look like themselves. However, the show is good. And The Last of Us impressed me pretty much with the first episode. So we meet Ellie, and she's a bit of a pistol. She's chained and in a room, and the Fireflies are keeping watch over her. And the Fireflies in the game, they're basically part of the rebellion. They're rebels and they're fighting against the system. The government is still in place and limiting people and where they can go. The government is very nasty because they've been killing a lot of people, and it was clearly seen in the thing, like they're killing the infected. They're killing anyone who tries to stand up or rise above. So the Fireflies are there to protect, supposedly to protect the citizens, and to basically launch an uprising to take back or to shatter that higher power. So Joel hears from a tradesperson that his brother Tommy is in Cody, Wyoming, supposedly. The guy said he listens to the radio all the time. He's never heard anything come through, but he thinks that that's where Tommy is, and Joel wants to go there to see if he can find his brother. So in the game, when Tess goes to, Robert, it's guns, but in the show, it's actually a battery for a vehicle, which I think is it's more logical. Especially, you need a vehicle to be able to travel around and do what they need to do. So Maureen is introduced, and I really like Maureen. She's a tough as nails firefly, and she is about her business. Okay, and she has Ellie, or Veronica in another room chained up, and she's just basically telling her it's for her own good. They're trying to actually protect her. And I like when Marlene and the other Firefly meet Joel and Tess and Ellie, and they're all in that one shot. Of course, Joel is very skeptical and suspicious of Fireflies, and Ellie, she feels protected under Marlene's care, but she doesn't want to go with Joel. So Marlene basically tells Joel, just like the game, that, hey, I need you to smuggle her out of the area. She has to get to the Capitol building. It's imperative. So Joel agrees to do it because Marlene sweetens the pot and states that she can get him the supplies that they need, the battery that they need for the vehicle itself, and of course guns and other supplies. When Joel and Tess first arrive on the scene, Tess doesn't kill Robert. He's actually already expired. So that was different, and it made sense because they got raided, and some people were taken down. And Marlene got injured, but she's still able to protect Ellie. And Ellie looks like she was trying to protect herself, because as soon as Joel entered the hall, she jumped on him and tried to stab him, which I thought was pretty interesting. So you see this fierceness about Ellie already, as her character was just like that in the video game. So Joel is now tasked to take Ellie to the Capitol building. And of course, to get there, since they're in this specific quarantine zone, they can't go beyond the outskirts of the zone. So if they pass from one zone to another, they have to either have clearance, or if they don't provide any type of documentation, they can get killed on the spot or imprisoned. So Joel goes with Tess and Ellie, and they travel. And while they're traveling to this location, Ellie is trying to trust Joel, and you can see clearly she's not. She's terrified. So they get to a checkpoint, and there's a soldier there, and it's the same soldier that Joel, was selling illegal substances to earlier. Joel is there, and he's trying to rationalize with the soldier, but he doesn't want to hear it. He doesn't want any business, any parts of it. So he's like, on your knees, get on your knees. So Joel and Tess, they oblige, and so does Ellie. So the soldier's going by, and he's scanning them, kind of like how they do with the pandemic, to check and see if they have any fevers. And he was like, we're not sick. When they get to Ellie her him, and they find out later, after they take the guard out, that Ellie is actually infected. She came up, her temperature was wrong and something was going on. And she showed them her bite. She's saying, hey, just like the game, it was 3 weeks old, and people, when they get infected the first day, and then they turn automatically. So right now they're scared because they're like, she might be infected. They still decide to take her and complete the task that they were assigned to do, which is take her to the Capitol. So I love the interaction between Ellie and Joel back at Joel's place, Joe and Tessa's place. She was trying to feel him out. She's very witty and sarcastic, which I liked, same just like the video game. And she was able to pick up so easily about the secret code that they had for the radio system. I think 60s meant all clear. I think 70s was nothing to report. These were the codes. And then 80s is supposed to be trouble. So any type of song that played on the radio, it would relate to the code that they're trying to send messages back and forth without alerting anyone. So I liked at the very end when they panned the scene of where they had to go, like where the Capitol is, and the two buildings were, just falling into each other. How devastated that area looked, and the post-apocalyptic feel. It just was this feeling of dread, and with the 80s song playing in the background, it made it even more eerie. So you know that there's more stuff coming, and HBO did not disappoint. The acting was stellar. I really enjoyed the characters. Bella brought her own, vibe to the screen, and she was Ellie. She embodied Ellie, and we have to give her her flowers. She did well. And Pedro as Joel. Pedro did such a good job. He is a talented actor anyway. I enjoyed him in Game of Thrones, and I enjoyed him in The Mandalorian, so I knew it wasn't going to be a disappointment with him as an actor. The characters were, of course, it takes time for character development, but was the character able to pull off the characters in the game? Absolutely. I gave them 9 out of 10. I expect big things from them, so it can only go up from here, and especially with them showing the infected on the wall, the makeup, the set design, the setting, the post-apocalyptic world with everything destroyed, and they pan and they show the city. I thought that was nicely done. It puts you into that setting, it plugs you right in, and it gives you that fear starts to rise because you know what to expect because you played the game. Things are jumping out of the corner, and I can't wait to see the spores. There's certain things that I can't wait to see as the show progresses. And it took me a little while to recognize Tess, which I thought about. I was like, wait a minute, that's Anna Torv. Anna Torv is from Fringe, which was one of my shows back in the day. I loved Fringe. So it was so nice to see her back on screen. And I'm really looking forward to the second episode. But let me know in the comment section if you watched the premiere and what did you think of the show? Like, what did you think of the actors? What did you think of the setting? And let me know if it mirrors the game and what your expectations were.